Welcome back, dear students, to tip number 4. I am happy we reached to this the fourth tip because it shows that we have covered a lot. We went through sequence programs, selection programs, repetition programs, as well as arrays, where we equally looked at the strings. In this tip number 4, as the title says, numeric set characters to corresponding integers, because there are some programs whereby we have string values where we need to extract the integer part of such strings. It is very easy to do that when it comes to programming languages like Python and Java and others. But when it comes to C, there is no direct method that enables us to do that. So that is why I saw it good to give it to you as a tip. So without wasting so much time, let us look at it. Tip number 4, numeric character and string to equivalent integer. In contrast to programming languages like Python, C cannot easily get the numeric part of a string or get the integer equivalent of a numeric character. Remember, 4, when you see 4 in quotes, it means that it is a character. It's different from 4, which is the integer. That is why I always tell my students, because you see some students, they will tell you data type. For example, I'm taking the case of database, they will tell you that in a particular field, putting text which is for strings or putting integer is still the same. But I always explain to them that this 4 as a character is different from 4 as an integer, and they always ask me how is that possible because they are the same, they are written the same way. Then I simply explain to them that, okay, let me say I have John and Mary in class. They said yes. Then I say, what is John plus Mary? It becomes very difficult for them to give me an answer. Some will say John Mary, some will say like they will be mixing the characters, and at the end I say no, John Mary is simply a concatenation of the two strings. But if I tell you what is 4 plus 4, you will tell me it is 8. If I tell you what is 8 minus this, you will give me the answer. And that is why I always tell them that the data type is from the operations you are supposed to perform on the variable. That's how you set data type. You cannot have a particular field in which the values are supposed to be used in a calculation and you go and put text. Text will go, but when you reach the level of performing calculation in SQL, which we are to see very soon, it will be very difficult for you. So it's the same thing in C. We need to know how to extract the integer part from a character or a set of characters. Now, in ASCII encoding, the character 0, it is in quotes, has a decimal value 48. 1, 2, 5 have value 49, 50, 53 respectively. Remember, when we were looking at the different methods that we have in a string library, we saw that the different characters, the ASCII values are proportional. That is, as you are moving, they are increasing by 1. So that is why 0 is 48, 1 is 49, 2 is 50, 3 is 51, 4 is 52, and 5 is 53 respectively. Hence, by adding a number between 0 to 9 to the character 0, to the 0 character, we obtain the corresponding character representation of the given number. Example, if I have an integer num whose value is 9, then the operation num plus 0 plus the character 0 evaluates to the character 9. So dear students, for you to obtain the character equivalent, the numeric character equivalent of an integer, you simply have to add it to that particular 0. That's how it's done. And the reverse says, by subtracting the character 0 from a numeric character, we obtain the corresponding integer representation. For example, if I have the character pass whose value is 7, then the operation pass minus 0 result to 7. Let us go to our IDE to look at it. In our IDE, I create a new file. Our hashtag include standard input output.h int main. So if I have my, let me say, char pass, then I have my integer num. So now let me just initialize them directly. So let me say char pass is equals to 6, num is equals to 9. Good. So let me say printf, the character is percentage %c and the number is percentage %g slash n. So the character pass, the number num. When I print this, I will say tip 4 test. C source file. So when I run now, as you can see, the character is 6 because it takes pass and the number is 9. Good. From there now, what do I do? If I have, for example, let me say pass, because we said to obtain the character, we need to add the zero. We need to add the zero. So let me say equals to num plus the zero character. Then num is equals to, no, instead of saying num, I will put the value 9 directly. I want you guys to look at something. Then num, I will say num is equals to the character 6 minus the character 0. So let me print this again. And it says now that the character is 9 and the number is 6, as you can see. That's what we have, because the character has been what? 9 plus the 0, it becomes the character 9 now. And for number, it's the same thing. Let me see if I reverse their position. That is, here I put num and here I put the pass. When I run, it says the character is, it does not display the character. Why does it not display? Because percentage C corresponds to characters, but num now is an integer. That's why it does not give. And now pass, it is displaying 57. Why 57? Because 57 is the ASCII code for the value 9, for the character 9. That is what we have. So just to tell you that it works perfectly well. So now let me do it well so that you confirm that it works. So I will say num is equals to pass minus 0, and here I will put the 5, and here I will just display the number. So the number is percentage %d and it displayed by num. So when I run it, you see the number is 5 because it took pass minus 0, it gave the character equivalent. Let me see something. If I say plus 6 instead of 5, it will now be 11 because the addition has been performed. Whereas if I come on this character and I say plus 9, if he adds, then he will just add to the ASCII code. So you see, it displays something different because a character cannot be added to a particular integer. That's why it displays this sign, because when you take the ASCII code from 5 and you add it to 9, it will give you the ASCII for the character greater than. So that's what we have. So if I change the example, the value to 8, it will display a different character, which is capital A, as you can see, and the number is now 14 because 8 plus 6 is 14. So that's how you convert a character to an integer, and how you convert an integer to a character. Let us move. We are just at the beginning. So that's the formula to obtain the character equivalent. It is simply what? The integer plus the 0 character. To obtain the integer part, it is the character minus the 0. So now, in order to extract the numeric values from a string, there are three cases. Case 1, numeric value is at the beginning of the string. In this case, we use the method atoy, which is present in the stdlib.h library. Example, consider the declaration charcoal 10, which is equal to 237 org. The assignment country code is equal to atoy code, implies country code will be equal to 237. Take note that we are, in this case, we are using the atoy. And in this one is suitable because there are some strings whereby the validation rule stipulates that the integer must always be the beginning of the string. In such a case, atoy is the best method to use. Let us look at it. So back to our IDE. Let me say this is code. Let me say country code. And here I have code 10 equals to 237 org. Good. So now, if I say country code is equals to atoy, I just put the name of the string. Then let me just print the country code is %d/n, comma, I have country code. So let me run it. And it display the country code is 237. For you to be sure that it's an integer is because it gives you the percentage d. Let me add 3 to it so that 237 will be 230 for you to confirm that it is actually an integer. 237 plus 3 is 240, sorry. So that is what we have. So when the numeric part is at the beginning, you use the atoy method. And take note that if it is not at the beginning, because if I put a simple a here, so that the country code will now become 23 because it reads all the integer part until it sees a single character. If the character is at the beginning, then it will not go. We are going to have but 0. Good. So that's why we say the author is suitable only when the integer we are supposed to extract from the string is at the beginning of the string. Let us look at the two other cases. Case 2, numeric value is at the end of the string. In this case, we first reverse the string, that is using the string reverse from the string.h library. Next, we use the atoy method to get the integer, and finally we apply a simple algorithm to reverse the integer. Remember when we were doing our exercises on repetition control structure, we wrote a program that enables us to reverse a particular integer. Very, very easy. Let us look at it. So in this case now, let me put the 237 at the end, org.237. Okay, so what do we have? The first thing I reverse. So what am I going to have? If I say code is equals to string reverse in bracket code, that is I'm reversing code. Let me see. Let me print now code and see whether it gives. So when I run it, it says error. It says assignment to expression with array type. Good. Remember that we cannot directly copy array, so we need a method. And which method is suitable to copy an array? To copy a string. Perfect. If you say the string copy, then you are right. So that is what I have. So I copy into code the reverse of code. No need declaring another string again. So when I run it, I'm having warning. As you can see, they say in incompatible implicit declaration. So I need to include the library, which is string.h. So when I run now, 0 error. So you see that it has reversed code. Instead of org.237, it has 737.gro. So it has been reversed. Now, and you see that the country code atoy, what do we have? 737. But what we need to have is 237. So in this case, first of all, I will have an intermediary variable x, which will take that particular value. So x takes that particular value. Now, what do we have? While we are reversing the string. So first of all, the first step says we reverse the string. Then the second one says we obtain the integer part, that is number 2. That is what we did. Now number 3 says we should reverse the integer. So what will I have? Yx is different from 0. That's the algorithm we use. What do we simply have? Country code is equals to 10 times the number in mode 10. Yes, 10 times x, 10 times country code plus x in mode 10. That is what we have. Why are we multiplying by 10? We're multiplying by 10 in such a way that what we move from the unit to tens, then to 100, then to 1000, as it's going to be. Then the number reduces by when it is divided by 10. Remember that this is the same thing as what? Same as x is equals to x divided by 10. It's the same thing. So that is what we have. So now let us see if the country code will work. The country code is 1237, which is not correct because it's supposed to be 237. So we see that there's a problem. And I told you that when you're having a particular variable in a loop that changes, you need to initialize it to 0 first of all. So if I initialize to 0, what do I get? 237. That is the integer part. Let me change and see. If I put 8, 2837. That is what we have there, students. So that is simply the code we have in obtaining the last the numeric part of a string, which is at the end of the string. That is how it works. Move to the last case. Case 3 says numeric value is in between the string. In this case, we first identify the index or indices of the number in the string. If it's a single index, we use its index followed by -0 as what we saw here. That is, I will have that number because what the string at a particular index minus the 0 character, and I will obtain it. But if it is more than a single index, you can use a second string that will read the characters, then you use the atoy method. As easy as that. So this is the last case. Let us look at it. Back to our IDE. I'm sure we understood this particular one. Let me just comment it and put it at the end. Yeah, it has been commented. Now, this is what I have. We say that, let me say I have, yes, org37.com. We know that the index, in this case, the integer should always be at a particular index. That's how it's supposed to be. In that case now, what will I have? Let me say I have code. Then my code will simply be, country code will simply be the string, which is code in this case. At that particular index, this is index 0, 1, 2, 3. So index at position 3 minus the 0 character. So now if I decide to print country code, printf, the code is %d country code. If I run this, the code is 7. So it's that when it's a single index, you simply identify that particular index, then minus 0 character as we saw. But if it is a group 237, let me increase the size here to 15. What do? We said that we need another string to extract it from it. So here, let me say sub. And in this case now, the integer in the middle needs to be of fixed length. And we must know is that it starts from this particular index to this particular index because it is something that that should follow a particular trend that we need to know. So here, let us say it contains only 3 characters, so the size will be 4. So the last character will be the terminating character. So what do I have? I will simply use a for loop. So for I equals to 0. No, I should start from the index where integer is starting. So here it is index number 3. I is less than, let's say, where does it end? Is 2. This is number 3, 4, 5. So I should be less than 6. Or you can say less than or equals to 5. And I increments. What do we have? Sub at position J, that is at 0. Because I need also an integer that I will initialize to 0. You need to know why. So I cannot say sub at position I is equals to code at position I. It will not work. Why will it not work? Because I is starting from 3, and hence 3 is the last index inside this string. So I need an integer j that will be the first index that I have, and it will be equals to code at position I. And after that, after each iteration, j has to be incrementing. And then to say that j comes and incrementing, which is too much work, I will just come here and say j increment, meaning that what after I have done this assignment, j increases directly. So after that, let me use puts and see whether it will actually extract that particular integer. Let us see. Let me comment this so that I have only this as output. Error, you say I undeclared. Yes, so I was supposed to be declared. So if I run now, you see that it displays there. It displays what the substring 237, but it is displaying as a string. So for me to obtain it now in an integer, I will simply use what the atoy method. So I have my atoy sub. And here I display it, no stress, and everything is done. And you see that even if the code is changing, I will still have the same thing, 207. As easy as that, dear students. So I hope this tip was beneficial to you, that you learned a lot. Remember, these tips are to increase our knowledge when it comes to programming and other aspects of C. Yes, because we already saw random number generation, we saw the conditional operator, we saw infinite loop, what causes an infinite loop, how to leave an infinite loop, and we also saw this tip number 4, how to obtain the integer part of a string, be it at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, and how to obtain the character equivalent of an integer, and vice versa. So see you in the next video where we shall be introducing subroutine. Do not forget to like, to subscribe, and to share. And before watching the next video, please watch the video on subroutines under algorithms for you to be used to terms like argument, parameters, procedure, function, and all the rest, and how to dry run a subroutine. The link to the video on algorithms under subroutine will be given in the description of this video. Thanks, and see you in the next class.